Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Dieter Melhorn Fishing Podcast. I hope you're having a good day, whatever day it is that you happen to be checking out the show, watching it on YouTube, or listening to the audio version. Hey, have you ever been to a fishing tournament and a fight break out? We had one happen here at a catfish tournament. How about have you ever been at a restaurant eating like breakfast and, well, before a tournament with a bunch of tournament people and a fight breaks out? Well, that happened too here in the Carolinas. The Carolinas are just full of a whole bunch of fights lately around fishing tournaments. We're going to talk about both of them. I find it interesting. I'm going to give you my opinion on a couple of these things because of what has happened. The catfish tournament was local. It was with our local tournament series. I'm going to talk about it. It was caught on camera. Everything was on video. And I'll be honest with you, I actually wasn't going to do anything about this. Really, there was no real angle on it. And then some stuff started coming up about the rules and how the rules apply to this. And it kind of brought up some interesting points. I'm going to talk about that and give you my opinion on it. As is all this stuff. This is my opinion on it. And but there was first, I'm going to talk about this bass fishing tournament, and I heard about this through Cerebral Tackle. They're a YouTube channel that I love listening to. It's all bass fishing, and but the guy does an amazingly good job with document. He's from a journalism background. You can tell he does his research on stuff. There's some conjecture involved, but he does his looking and his digging, and he's got some great sources in the fishing industry to get this information from. So he talks about this was in the NBFL, which is a bass fishing tournament series that's had its share of controversy recently, especially with some of the forward-facing sonar and some other things with their schedule and all this. But this happened around a tournament that was on Lake Murray, and it had been postponed because of bad weather. What ends up happening is one of the anglers, and the thing was the bad weather, there was some high winds. Smart thing to do on that lake because it's a big lake and it can get pretty snotty out there. And after a young man was killed out there, I believe it was earlier this year, last year, in a tournament in heavy fog, people are being more and more cautious, which is smart. One of the anglers posted a video that supposedly was taken in a cove sheltered from the wind, showing that the wind wasn't blowing bad. It really wasn't that bad out there, and kind of basically making fun of the tournament director for not having the tournament. Well, it turns into a deal where he shows up at a local restaurant, and I'm going to let Cerebral Tackle tell this story of what happened because he tells it really, really well, and I'll give you some opinions on this.
Things took a drastic turn. See, 10 to 12 anglers had sat down at a local joint to have breakfast. This place is called the Bacon Southern Eatery, and it's there in Chapin, South Carolina.
By the way, this place is actually a good place to eat. I have actually been there for some odd reason. We were in that area and we ate there. So go check it out. He's going to post the address to it. So if you're in that area, go give him some love.
Out of nowhere, Brad Fuller, president and tournament director of the MPFL, comes in the doors, reportedly yelling profanities and demands to speak with Doug Chapin outside. After only a couple of minutes, Doug Chapin returns inside to rejoin his group. But according to police reports, only a couple of minutes later...
Yes, folks, he said police reports. So not only is he getting an account of this from some of the anglers there, which he has good sources inside the bass fishing world, but this one escalated to a police report, and you'll see some of the copy of it here in a second.
Brad Fuller re-enters the establishment, this time flanked by his wife. Both yelling profanities, and a huge scene occurs. It's reported that at several points during the confrontation, Fuller can be heard telling Chapin that he's going to F him up. But at some point in there, his attention is drawn to another angler sitting with them, Michael Yoder. Well, he tells Michael Yoder he's going to F him up too. Michael stands up from the table, the two get chest to chest, and the confrontation grows.
Guys, this is a little more than what I'm going to talk about here in the catfish tournament in a few minutes. The one in the catfish tournament basically fast forwarded past all this and went straight to the punches. You'll get to see that video. But this one here had a lot of build-up time, and it's crazy that it happened in a restaurant. And granted, remember, this is before the tournament even started.
It's at this point that waitstaff intervenes, separating the two parties, informing the Fullers that they're not going to be served and they need to leave. When they initially refuse, waitstaff then requests folks to call 911. By the time the police show up, the Fullers are long gone.
And this one, the police were brought in. This was something obviously that happened in a public restaurant. It got crazy. Cops were called in, and that's where you're getting the copy and the information from this police report that was taken.
However, law enforcement makes contact with the Fullers later that same day. It's at this point Brad Fuller, tournament director and president of the National Professional Fishing League, is informed he is being charged with 1 count of disorderly conduct and 1 count of simple assault.
There you go, guys. This one ended up with charges being made. Granted, I don't think anybody went to jail in the process, but somebody was actually charged for what happened here. So it's a pretty crazy deal. We'll see what happens down the road as this turns out. Probably plead down to some lesser charges and a little bit of fine and a suspended sentence. It's not going to be the end of the world, but it shows you how crazy things can get. It's not just we got a lot of catfish people here, and they always talk about how stupid the tournament world is. Listen, it's like that everywhere. This stuff happens at your local pay lakes and the carp lakes. It happens in catfish tournaments. We see it in striper tournaments. We had a tournament this year where somebody was bringing in undersized fish. There's all kinds of drama and all kinds of disputes everywhere. And I think, and I'm going to get to this at the end, that's not necessarily bad. And it's going to be controversial. It's going to piss some people off, but I'll get to it. But I'm going to tell you the story of this catfish tournament. This happened with the Southeastern Catfish Club series, which is here on Lake Wylie, the lake I fish. They fish on Watery, Fishing Creek. I think they even go down to Monticello and maybe Santee Cooper. The best run tournament series in the country, hands down. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I love the way they run their tournament series. It's done extremely well. It's a good series, and they're pretty much happy with where they're at. They're not trying to expand and get super big. They got a core group of sponsors, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, that supports the series. The anglers are loyal. They get good turnouts for the tournaments, and it's a good tournament series. What happened at this one? It was on Lake Wylie, the home lake that I fish. And at the end of the tournament, there was some discussion, is a good way to put it, between the guy who won the tournament and some other anglers, and that escalated into something. I was not privy to what was said, what was heard, but I heard there was a little bit of bragging, a little egging people on, and that kind of stuff that took place. And it got bad. It escalated further and further and further, and finally, well, it came to blows. I'll show you this video. Well, there you go, guys. It was a one-punch knockdown. Too bad that post was in the way. That would have been really good to see all of that. But this video, again, I wasn't going to do anything on this because, I don't know, there was kind of a non-story here until I found out about this bass tournament, until I saw some of the questions people were bringing up online, which we're going to get to. But I don't know. It's two guys get mad at each other. They come to punches, and one who, by the way, the one guy who threw the punch that knocked the guy down had one hand that was stitched up from a wound that he had. So pretty good punch, pretty good throw. I've spoken with Jake Paul, and he's considering a match out at the lake sometime next year. So we're going to work on that now that he's knocked down Tyson. But anyway, I'm kidding. It was an interesting turn of events. And what the question was that was brought up, somebody brought this up on Facebook and said, hey, there's a sportsmanship rule that this tournament series has that basically, at the discretion of the tournament, you can be penalized, disqualified, lose points. There's a whole bunch of things, consequences for doing something that is unsportsmanlike. And it goes on to, say that this can happen for stuff that is done on social media after a tournament, etc. And it's a tournament rule that they can, choose to enforce or not enforce. And somebody had brought that up online. And I was like, that's a good question. That's a good point. So this is where my opinion comes in on it. And this is where it'll probably be controversial to a lot of people. And I think it's going to be polarizing in what I'm about to say. But do I think they should penalize these people, these two guys for what happened. And my personal opinion is no, I don't think they should penalize them for it. And as crazy as that sounds, I believe a couple of different things. One, is it unsportsmanlike? Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not in the best interest. I would not tell my son to go out there and do something like this, but depending on your approach to this video, it could have been self-defense, and it was just something that they felt they were doing to protect themselves. Is it is it unsportsmanlike? I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess in the purest sense, it is. We don't need to be out there fighting over who won a tournament, but uh, things happen, and in all honesty, I think it builds drama. Let's face it, okay? Fishing tournaments, catfish tournaments, from a viewer standpoint, are boring as crap. I've said that before. They're a non-entertaining form of just they're not entertaining for the sponsors. And for the most part, a bunch of guys come in, they weigh some fish. It really doesn't appeal to anybody except for the people that are in the tournament and maybe a few 20 people that show up to watch the weigh-in. So they're kind of boring. This adds some excitement to it. This adds some drama. I know people, say constantly, "Oh, we don't need no more drama." Yeah, people like drama. This stuff started circulating on the internet. Like I said, I got a copy of this video early on from a couple of different people, and I wasn't going to do anything with it. I thought it was going to stay, kind of private, and then, it started blowing up everywhere. I started seeing it on TikTok, Facebook, and I was okay, it's public information at this point. And it's entertaining. It created some drama. It created some attention for this series. Now, some people will say, well, if that happened in bass or, another sport or football or NASCAR or something, they'd be penalized. Maybe so. NASCAR had the thing that Robin Pemberton said years ago, boys have at it, which, they backpedaled on a little bit to say, well, it didn't really mean they can do anything. But even in NASCAR, some of the fights and some of the penalties for fighting were depended on what exactly was going on, when it happened, and how it affected the competition a lot of times, and how it affected actually NASCAR. There have been some big penalties handed out for what was said about NASCAR because it was more derogatory toward the organization than what it was toward, any individual. Hockey, they basically let them fight until somebody goes down. And, if you guys are going to fight, hockey is one of those sports where, it's a fighting sport, and they've kind of recognized that, and they kind of let them go at it. Once a guy goes down, boom, they come in and break it up. It's probably different. In football, you get a small penalty for whatever unsportsmanlike conduct, something like that. But the whole point is, in a tournament series like this, looking at their sponsors, who are sponsors that are married to this series and are very endemic to the catfish world, I don't think they care. I think they like it. I think they like the fact that, hey, we may be able to sell, some more shad. Jamie K Outdoors will probably sell some more shad down there at his bait shop because somebody that's watching this podcast is going to go look at that website to see what's going on and go, hey, I might buy some bait from him. I think it doesn't affect them. I don't think you're going to have anybody tapping out, canceling their sponsorship out of political correctness because they're opposed to violence in this world. Now, is that going to work in every tournament series? Probably not. If this happened on the outdoor channel on a live show, let's say, somebody's doing a live tournament, probably wouldn't play out as well. Probably would be more of an uproar from the tournament series and everything else to, do a little virtue signaling and go, oh, we're opposed to this and blah, 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 so we're going to penalize these people. But I think with this series, I think it's a little more dirt track racing. Any of you folks that have followed any dirt track racing, the purest form of automobile racing there is, fights happen. As a matter of fact, about 37.6% of the reason I go to a dirt track race is to hope that a fight breaks out somewhere, just for the heck of it, just to see what happens. So it's kind of part of it. It's part of the gladiator part that we kind of like. We don't like to admit it. We know it's not right. We know it's not good. It doesn't make the sport necessarily better, but by God, it makes it entertaining, and it makes it fun to watch, and it makes it captivating to see what the outcome's going to be, what's going to happen next. I'll probably be pulling up this tournament next time just to see if a fight breaks out at the end of it. Is that necessarily good, necessarily bad? I think there is a limit to it at some point. What that is, I don't know. But my opinion is you don't penalize these guys. I think they're big boys. I think what happened happened. And I think they'll learn their lessons and move the heck on from it. And, you know, we'll move on. I don't think we need any penalties in this situation. Is that biased because, well, I like the tournament series? Maybe. There's some probably implicit bias there involved, but that's my opinion on it. I'd love to hear your opinion down in the comments. The last time I did one of these videos, I asked for comments, and you guys came up with some great commentary and ideas on stuff. So I love hearing from it. In the comments, I want to hear whether you think these two guys should be penalized for what happened. And it'll be interesting to see what you guys think. So that's my take on this whole thing. And man, what a year we've had in the catfish tournament world. It's been some interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to what happens in 2025, 2026, 2027, and beyond. So it'll be interesting to see. So till next time, we'll catch you guys out on the water.